Alright, what's going on everybody? So this is my review for Call of Duty Black Ops 4. So I've never considered myself a fan of the modern Call of Duty. I've always had like this great disdain, for the franchise, especially after Call of Duty 3, because I didn't like the change in direction, and I felt the online gameplay was especially mediocre, which was, an unpopular opinion. I did like most of the Call of Duty campaigns, and I felt the most amazing ones were made by Treyarch, such as, Black Ops 1 and World at War. And I've always been very critical of Call of Duty as a franchise. With my harsh criticisms, especially at a time when it was unpopular to criticize Call of Duty. But even with Black Ops 4, I cannot deny that this is a great game. So as we all know, Treyarch chose to omit the single player portion of Call of Duty this year. And even though most would agree they crafted the best stories in the modern franchise, I have no issue with this from a consumer or a business standpoint. Developers spend the most money developing the campaign in their games, with only a small percent of consumers actually completing them. Focusing only on multiplayer costs less and is the most fruitful. So this leaves us mainly to talk about the gameplay and the modes in Black Ops 4. One of my major issues with Call of Duty is I never really felt like the controls translated well on controller through thumbsticks. Mouse and keyboard is always the most accurate and ideal way with any first-person shooter, obviously. But at least with most first-person shooters, I felt like controllers were at least tolerable, and it was at least a playable experience. Call of Duty is the only first-person shooter I feel like I cannot play with a controller, right? Some people can, I just can't. I feel like it's terrible. To me, playing Call of Duty with a controller is like when you were a kid and you tried to put the square blocks in the triangle hole. It just doesn't work for me. So it's safe to assume, safe for you to guess, I played this on PC, and the PC version was developed by Raven and Beanox Software, which I feel like they did a great job with this PC version and did the due diligence, because the mouse feels very smooth, the one-to-one precision, everything just feels like a seamless experience. It was disappointing though to learn that the Black Ops 4 beta ran at 60 hertz and Black Ops 4 at launch ran at 20 hertz, and they just recently patched it to 30. The amount of hertz makes a big difference, because that is the rate at which the signal is being sent, and pretty much being the server is receiving the signal and sending it back and forth and everything like that, and that could make a big difference. So hopefully they will get it back up to 60. Because like I said, it just makes a world of difference with gameplay. Some of the modes you expect are there, like kill confirmed, hardpoint, control, domination, and heist is a mode that a lot of Counter-Strike fans would probably like, and I actually liked it myself. The guns feel and perform well. Guns don't perform like lasers, like they have in some previous Call of Duties. There's realistic bullet drop and better damage drop off. Most of the operators and their abilities are useful depending on your playstyle and the mode that you're playing. The maps are a decent mix of classic favorite Black Ops maps and new maps. Even though you will run into those moments where the game feels completely chaotic, between all the operators using their specials and the score streaks, the game in actuality is honestly pretty balanced. Players having more health and requiring manual heals, I feel like it's a great change, because it somewhat counters, the aspect of Call of Duty that is who sees who first typically wins the fight. That dynamic of the game I'm not the biggest fan of, and I think giving just increasing the overall health and requiring manual heals kind of counteracts that dynamic in the game. So I like that aspect. And as far as blackout mode, which is, Call of Duty's Battle Royale. I just think it's great. It's probably, you can rank it amongst the top Battle Royale games out there. I don't really know if that's saying much, because there's a lot of Battle Royale games out there now that are just kind of trash, and they're just lazy, trying to be lazy cash-ins. But it's great. It takes a little bit adjusting to, simply because weapons and supplies are not as scarce as they are in some other Battle Royale games. I think Battle Royale games as a whole are trying to move away from the whole fascination about the mode is being how scarce supply is, and rather just about, the tense situations of trying to survive and outlast all the other players. I think they're solely depending on that, and not so much of the scarcity of weapons. So, I'm completely fine with that. I think it's fun, especially, with friends. The interface can sometimes be a little cluttered when you're going through the menu. It could, at first when you're playing it, I remember when I was playing it in the beta, it was like a lot to look at, but you kind of just get adjusted to it. And they really put the Call of Duty personality and the style and the elements from the past Call of Duties into this Blackout mode, as far as the map goes, as far as the characters, the weapons, of course, just everything. So it really does feel like how an authentic Call of Duty game would play in a Battle Royale mode. So yeah, it's great. So zombies has always been pretty boring to me. Since the inception of this mode, I never really understood the hype, and it always felt pretty overrated to me. It honestly always put me to sleep, and I never really understood why people like playing this mode so much. I've tried to play this mode alone, I've tried to play it with friends, but honestly, it just keeps putting me to sleep, and yeah, I just don't really find it very fun. And that's not really necessarily specific to Call of Duty or zombies. I'm not a fan of horde modes in most games. I can only think of a couple of games in my head that I actually enjoyed the horde mode. The only one that I can actually think of is like Red Dead Redemption's Undead Nightmare DLC. That came out I feel like 9 years ago, and that's the last one I can really think of, that I really enjoyed a horde mode in. But yeah, that's zombie modes, and horde modes just typically aren't for me. There's a few exceptions though. So as far as the visuals go, Call of Duty visuals were a point of scrutiny for a long time, even from diehard fans. Visuals, physics, and animations remained stagnant for years. And there were instances of severe and obvious copy and pasting going on. People have made videos about those. But I could say Black Ops 4 is probably, it's probably one of the best Call of Duties. Best looking Call of Duties. I don't know if that's really saying much either, but it's probably top 3 best looking Call of Duty games. And I would say the best example of that is when you are looking at the pre-game screen with your teammate characters, and they're holding their guns. You can see the high detail of the character models and their weapons. This is the highest amount of detail I've noticed in a Call of Duty game. The map texture and the design have just clean and sharp presentation. Shadow and light and post-processing effects help to just make this an overall very nice looking game. I mainly play with these settings at medium, not because my system can't handle it at high or maxed out. It definitely can, but most PC gamers know that it's best practice and most ideal to have your visual settings at a overall lower setting, so that there's no possibility of your machine being hindered in any type of way when you're playing online, because you want the most, you want all the advantage you can possibly have when playing online. And, whether it be, the visuals dragging down your performance or anything like that, that can make a big difference in how you perform online. In blackout mode, the visuals are downgraded, but that's to be expected in a mode where there's so many people running around a huge map. So I think this Call of Duty is pretty fun, and no, it's not a honeymoon period for me, because once again, I'm not really a Call of Duty fan. I have never been one of those guys who's bought Call of Duty every single year and been like, oh, this multiplayer is great, and then 2 weeks later hated it. I've always been the guy who bought Call of Duty, enjoyed the campaign, played a few matches online, and it was like instant trash to me. So yeah, I've never really suffered from what a lot of Call of Duty players in the past have. So this is literally one of the very few times I've actually enjoyed Call of Duty online. The last time before this was probably Black Ops 1. I might have liked one of the other Black Ops, but I really can't remember. But I know I definitely liked Black Ops. And before that, it was probably like Call of Duty 2, Call of Duty 3, you know, and that's way back in the day. So I say that to say, if I like the game, someone who's been, you know, a huge critic of the modern franchise, you know it actually must be good. Fun modes, good maps, you know, guns that perform as they should, above average visuals. The spawns need some work, and the hurts need to be improved, but overall, I give Call of Duty an 8.5 out of 10. Thank you all for watching. Make sure you hit the like button, hit the notification bell so you can know anytime I'm live streaming, and I'll catch y'all later. Peace. Make sure you check out some of my other reviews, which will be on screen. All right? Peace.